We'll begin tonight with the National Executive Committee meeting of the People's Democratic Party, which held in Abuja, where the party on Monday zoned its 2027 presidential tickets to the south, while confirming as its substantive national chairman, Umar Damagum, who hails from the north. The decision was part of far-reaching resolutions at the end of the 102nd National NEC meeting, in which leaders of the party described as a move to strengthen internal balance and reposition the opposition ahead of the next general elections. Ambassador Umar Damagum has been serving in an acting capacity since 2023, and he will now serve until the party's national elective convention scheduled for November the 15th and 16th in Ibadan, Oyo State. Now, according to the communique issued by the National Publicity Secretary, Debo Ologunagba, the NEC unanimously approved the report of its zoning committee, which retained all national officers in their current region. Our first discussion tonight we're joined by my colleague who has been covering the meeting of the People's Democratic Party, Sumaya Abubakar. We'll also have later Chairman PDP's Lagos East Senatorial District, Abiona Rotimi, joining in. Thank you very much, Sumaya, for being here. What can you tell us about the meeting today that has not been captured?
Good evening, Felicity.
All right, Sumaya, if you can hear me, I just want you to give us a quick recap of what transpired today, that might not have made the news.
Actually, a lot did happen today in the NEC meeting. Earlier, it was not just the NEC meeting, but it was the final meeting among the series of meetings that were held today. We had of course, the Board of Trustees meeting that was held earlier. There was the NWC, that's the National Working Committee meeting, also was held. The Zoning Members Committee meeting also was held, and then it was wrapped up with the next meeting. Yes, and ahead of that, of course, there were major concerns. The substantive national chairman, Umar Damagum, pointed out one of their challenges, which he said that they have even proven that they could contend in 2027 election, which was the by-election, that's the off-cycle election that happened recently. He made mention that there was a lot of intimidation and a lot of irregularities that happened there. I mean, he alleged that. And he said that the PDP is going to stick to its guns, and PDP, even with all of the intimidation, which he mentioned, saying it is from the ruling party, the ANC, that at the end of the day, they won because they were able to even speak out or win over some of the holds, the stronghold of the APC in that by-election, and they're hoping that that would be the case in 2027. So that is the challenge, and for them, and they say that they are foreseeing how 2027 is going to be. Now, another thing which was addressed there was the inclusion part, where they said that in terms of zoning, there needs to be inclusion where every zone in Nigeria would feel part of this this part of the movement. Also, there was an inclusion message about women, which he said that the PDP had a sit down with the National Assembly and they promised that there was going to be room for more women. And he bragged that, of course, PDP is one of the most party that has given women the platform to come out and be in politics and governance. So that was another thing that was also addressed. And in terms of unity, this was made by Ahmed Magaisi, who is the former national chairman. He pointed out that as long as they bring each other together, do some conciliation and reconciliation, bringing back members that have grievances, with the party, making sure everybody is on board, because they cannot win without them working together. So basically, these are some of the things that were discussed, and there were even more in terms of the next meeting today.
Sumaya, was the decision unanimous to your knowledge, or were there, murmurs of displeasure as to the announcement of Umar Damagum as substantive chairman?
I would say it was a unanimous agreement. One of the minority leader of the House of Representatives, that would be Kingsley Chandi, I beg your pardon, Kingsley pointed out that the Chinda, he said that as long as they are together, that should be the most important thing. And he did point out that at the beginning of the meeting, they were tense, they did not know what to expect. I would say that there was a bit of tension because there was expectation of perhaps the FCC minister could be there until everybody was waiting. First, we're always on the ball waiting for him, but he never showed up. So I think the tension was really high. And the Trinidad, that's the minority leader for the PDP in the House of Reps, pointed out that the speech that was given, that was at the first stage of the next meeting by the national chairman, gave them a bit of hope and calm, and they're hopeful that everything will turn out right. So I think with the way that his leadership has been as the chairman of the People's Democratic Party, it gave them that hope and unanimous consensus that everyone was saying that he should be the person. So everyone that I was able to talk to after the meeting said that this was something that they agreed on, and they're happy that it finally happened.
I wanted to speak a little further on the issue of zoning. We know that prior to now, when it was announced that the presidency has been zoned to a particular area, some section or faction of the party said that is not correct. So now that we have the next meeting, is there a confirmation, or do we still have faction that might not have been at that meeting?
So far, we don't know if there is any faction, but then they pointed out that they're a bit, worried because they know that amongst the PDP members, there are some people that are not really happy with the party, and they're saying they would make sure they bring all of them together. Now, for them to do that before the national convention of the PDP is what we're not really sure of. But then in terms of, the zoning, they said that so far they've decided unanimously that it's going to go to the south, but then it's up to now the inner circle, that's the caucuses of the south, to decide which zone it comes from, talking about the south-south, the southwest, or the southeast. So that is another dilemma or tension that, if not really addressed well, it could be a major concern from, of course, the PDP. But then after they've given their assurances of saying it's going to the south, I think that aided their decision in making Damagum some appointments more strong and substantive.
There's a question that just keeps coming to my mind. Why was it necessary for them to have this conversation, this confirmation, when they have a convention coming up not too far from now, where a national chairman is expected to be unveiled? Did comments come up in this regard?
It did. Indeed, it did. One of their major concerns is that a party cannot move forward without a strong leadership. So hence the reason why this had to be known. At the earliest, that was around the board of trustee meeting, they pointed out that the series of meetings is something that is really necessary. Hence the reason why they had to do all of it together, because time was running out, and they needed to have a unanimous front. And they needed to be strong on the outside for people, other parties to take them seriously. Hence the reason. Now they pointed out that, of course, in the National Convention, there is going to be about numbers of appointments that would be done, new staff would be done, considering that, of course, the NWC members are approaching about 4 years, manning the leadership of the PDP. So they know that all of that would be looked into come the National Convention. But they needed to make sure that they had a leader, a strong leader, to push this situation forward. And according to them, they said this decision has made them have a strong faith that everything would be strong, would be good for the PDP. And they're saying that they feel that they're strong enough to go against the ruling All Progressive Congress.
Thank you very much for that coverage. We appreciate your time. Apologize, we couldn't bring in Abiona Rotimi. Hope to have him subsequently. Coming up tonight, Edo APC suspends 2023 senatorial candidate over alleged anti-party activities. We'll tell you about that when we come back from this short break. Just stay with us. You're watching tonight on News Central. A reminder of our top stories. People's Democratic Party zones 2027 presidency to the south confirms Umar Damagum as its substantive national chairman. Africa Chiefs of Defense Staff Summit opens in Abuja as Nigeria's Defense Minister Matawalle urges deeper collaboration to combat insecurity. Hezbollah rejects disarmament, says Israel must comply with ceasefire ahead of talks between Lebanese officials and U.S. envoys. Now, let's tell you about the little drama from Edo State. The All Progressive Congress chapter there has suspended its 2023 Edo South senatorial candidate, Valentine Asue, over alleged anti-party activities. Now, according to the APC State Publicity Secretary, Peter Wadie Igbinigi, the suspension was carried out in line with the party's 2022 constitution. He said Asue's actions were found to be capable of inciting division within the party and would not be tolerated. The party warned that any act of indiscipline or disloyalty would attract strict sanctions, urging members to remain united and focused on the APC's goals ahead of the upcoming political season. And one of our headliners, the maiden edition of the African Chiefs of Defense Staff Summit. It has opened in Abuja, bringing together defense leaders from across the continent to strengthen collaboration against emerging security threats. Hosted by Nigeria's Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, the three-day summit aims to promote intelligence sharing, joint training, and harmonized strategies among African militaries. My colleague, Sage Ibrahim, was there and brought us this report.
It is the maiden edition of the African Chiefs of Defense Staff Summit 2025. Seated across this hall are defense chiefs and representatives from all 54 African countries, alongside security experts and other stakeholders gathered together to develop strategies and frameworks to address Africa's security challenges. Chief host of the event and Nigeria's Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, says that a key focus of the summit agenda is improving collaboration and intelligence sharing among African militaries to tackle long-standing security threats confronting the continent.
Distinguished colleagues, the battlefield is evolving. The threats of today are no longer confined to conventional warfare. They are digital, asymmetric, and often invisible. The enemy is within.
Centered on the theme combating contemporary threats to regional peace and security in Africa, the role of strategic defense collaboration, Nigeria's president, represented by Vice President Kashim Shettima, while declaring the event open, called for Africa's defense apparatus to speak with one voice in addressing the continent's unique security challenges.
Security is the foundation upon which the edifice of progress must stand. That is why we must use this summit not merely as a meeting, but as a covenant to deepen cooperation through joint training, harmonized doctrines, and interoperable systems. For this to endure, we must build a framework where our defense institutions speak with one voice and act with one purpose.
Others re-echoed the call for collaboration, investment, and knowledge sharing, especially in tackling cross-border crimes.
African crises demand African leadership backed by global financial support for African solutions to succeed. Terrorists are not born. They are our children. They are the young people who have gone astray, badly astray. And it is our duty to bring them back out from the cold into building their nations and not destroying them.
Africa's security must be driven by African solutions, African leadership, and African unity.
We remain committed to strengthening our defense partnership, both bilateral and multilateral, to support peace, development, and the democratic values.
Like the president said, security is the foundation upon which progress must stand. It is against this backdrop that Africa's top military brass are going to be convened under one roof for the next 3 days to develop frameworks and strategies to address Africa's long-standing security challenges. From the Bola Ahmed Tinubu International Conference Center for News Central, Sagir Ibrahim.
Sagi joins us now to continue the coverage of the inaugural summit. Thank you very much, Sagi. It's been a long day for you, I suspect. Before we let you go catch your rest, talk to us about some of the key summaries from today's gathering, the first day of the summit.
Well, good evening, Felicity. Key takeaways. I would start by saying that the challenges that Africa faces as a continent, especially with regards to security, African leaders and Africa's security, heads of security agencies have realized that they are becoming more similar than they are different. If you look across the African continent, you will see most nations are bedeviled by whether it's insurgency or cyber attacks or terrorism, or name a few. So the understanding right now is that the unscrupulous elements, the criminals, seems to be developing a network to communicate with each other across the different countries, defying borders as the case may be. Now, it is against this backdrop that the Chief of Defense Staff, of course, facilitated by the President of Nigeria, is saying it has become imperative for Africa's defense chiefs to come together under one roof, forge ahead under one banner to develop strategies and framework that they would use to holistically address these issues. They have realized that there is indeed a need for them to come together, to address these issues, because they realize that it is more similar than it is different. Hence the reason why we see them convene this summit. Of course, some of the issues that they spoke about is the need to invest and collaboratively work with one another in terms of knowledge sharing and, of course, intelligence gathering, because they realize that some of these criminals would go through the chain and through the different network, talk about trade routes and talk about, all of these other elements that make Africa to be similar as a continent. They now say, if we come together, if we bolster framework, locally developed frameworks, of course, as opposed to having this framework brought from outside or from elsewhere, this would help to effectively address a myriad of these challenges that indeed are no longer as symmetric as they used to be. They are now asymmetric, they are now digital, and they've also employed the use of technology. Hence the reason why it is important for them to develop all of these mechanisms to tackle this more efficiently.
Okay, one quick basic clarification. Prior to the summit starting today, there was a statement, and in that statement, it was said that 54 countries, African countries, were invited, their chief of staff, and there is 90% attendance confirmed. Was that evident today?
I would say it wasn't just evidence, but commitment was also shown to address these issues, because the room was packed with uniforms, from and flags of different nations. So it was really clear that they were not mincing words, that they do realize that the enemy is within, and they are willing to work together to ensure that these issues, are holistically addressed. Like the Chief of Defense Staff mentioned, it's asymmetric, it is digital, hence they need to come together, just as the criminals are also coming together to ensure that the criminals are decimated in their ranks and the issues are distorted and destroyed once and for all.
You said in your first comment about the need for collaboration and, of course, modernizing technologies that they use in fighting security. That was something Chief Musa also said earlier. Did you see that starting off the conversation at the summit, or do you expect that that will come up in the coming days as part of the focus?
Well, I'll start by saying that for some of those who attended the conference, they were hesitant to respond to most of the questions that we had. because they were more interested in seeing how these conversations develop over the course of the next 2 days. So most of the responses that we had gotten was, the conference is just starting, the panel discussions has commenced, give us some time to go through these discussions so that when you ask for responses with regards to how we intend to address these issues, tackle these challenges, and put heads together to ensure that security and peace is restored to Africa, we can give a more wholesome response to these issues. But what I can say is, I saw commitment and I saw the zeal of these leaders to ensure that this security and this much needed collaboration is to a large extent achieved in the interest of peace and security. Of course, the keynote address was also given by the Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations, who also mentioned, we talk about Amina Mohammed, who also mentioned the need to not just invest in securities and invest in collaboration and intelligence sharing, but also to bring women on board to also ensure that while we're talking about addressing this issue and taking the warfare to them, we're also considering the aftermath of these warfare, the impact it's going to have on particularly women and children, and how societies could grow and move further after the effect of the attacks, the effect of insurgency, and of course the effect of the strategies that they will be implementing to ensure that the much needed peace and security returns to Africa. So it's the first day. Of course, the conversations are going to be on for the next 2 days, and hopefully, I would definitely have more to say about some of the strategies, hopefully, that they will be taking to make this work.
Okay, it's a 3-day event, and from your comments, opening remarks included loads of requests from the summit. Do you think this is enough time for these conversations to happen in depth in a way that would be beneficial in the efforts to overhaul Africa's security?
Well, whether it's going to be beneficial, I would say only time will tell. But what I can say here is, we've seen them start. A lot of people will say this is a good move. They have started. Let's see the direction that it is going to take. We saw the commitment from the different chief of defense staff from the different countries from across Africa. We also saw, of course, the regional bloc also coming in their numbers to show representation. Talk about ECOWAS, who also mentioned that they are aware of the geopolitical crisis that's beginning to emanate within the West African region. Hence the reason for them to deploy around 260,000 boots just in preparation for what might emanate from what they suspect might be, growing issues and crises within the West African region. So I would say that yes, they've started. We've seen them start. We can only watch to see the direction this is going to take, and then from there, we'll make conclusions from our observation as to whether this is going to yield any effect or not.
Definitely, we'll be coming back to you for all the juicy details from the summit. Thank you very much. Good night. Still ahead tonight, Abegro Garcia, detained in U.S., faces possible deportation to Uganda over alleged human smuggling. Details of this and more when we return. Let's bring you updates from the education sector. The Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board has directed all candidates who uploaded their O-level results before the release of the final 2025 WAEC results to re-upload them at accredited centers. The announcement was released in an official bulletin shared on the JAMB's official X handle on Monday. This directive follows the board's decision to clear all previously uploaded results from its system to prevent confusion during the admission process. Candidates with awaiting results are urged to update their final results promptly, as failure to comply may affect their admission eligibility. JAMB emphasized that even those whose results have not changed must re-upload to the official portal. Candidates are advised to visit accredited centers without delay to complete this requirement. To other development, the federal government, through the Teachers Registration Council of Nigeria and the United Kingdom funded Partnership for Learning for All in Nigeria, on Monday unveiled the TRCN portal to strengthen the Nigerian teaching workforce. Minister of State for Education, Professor Suwaiba Ahmed, noted that the launch of the portal will not only lead to the digitization of records, she noted that it will also provide a credible database of Nigerian teachers. Senior Education Advisor, British High Commission, Ian Atfield, stressed the need to ensure that teachers are adequately trained and motivated in the course of duty. The federal government has warned that 9 states and 15 communities across the northern region may experience heavy rainfall that would trigger flooding between August 25 and August 29, 2025. The states and communities likely to be affected include Abakumbo, Mubi, Sheleng in Adamawa State, Azare, Jamai in Bauchi State, Ngala in Borno, Nafada in Gombe, Gwaram in Jigawa, Sumaila in Kano, Bindawa, Kaita, Katsina in Katsina State, Makira in Sokoto, and Anka in Zamfara. The ministry also added, due to the rise in the water level of River Niger, communities on the floodplain from Jeba to Lokoja are advised to evacuate. Some survivors of human trafficking in Abuja have received training to become self-reliant, start their own businesses, transform their futures, and equip them with livelihood skills. This was part of a 4-day skills acquisition training by a faith-based organization as part of efforts to help integrate them back into the society. The Center's correspondent, Bettina Uweli, reports.
The training aims to raise awareness, build capacity, and equip participants with practical tools to identify, prevent, and respond to trafficking in all its forms, as well as to empower returned migrants and survivors of human trafficking to get back on their feet and build a future for themselves.
I stand before you today at the closing ceremony of this transformative journey of a skills acquisition training program, specifically organized for our brothers and sisters who have returned after facing some of their life's most difficult and unamiable challenges. Today is not just the end of this training, it is the beginning of a greater one, or something great. It is the start of an envied life, one filled with hope, dignity, and great opportunities.
Sometimes if we talk about irregular migration and people who are being exploited, our minds just fly and go to outside the country. But there are those who are being exploited sexually and otherwise around. And as we are gathered here, we have to encourage ourselves to see how we can liberate those who are going through these harrowing experiences.
Participants learned hands-on skills in bag making, cake baking, shoes, liquid soap and perfume production, amongst others.
Yeah, it's helpful to me because, of course, I can use it as a business. In the beginning, part of the training was entrepreneurship. They taught us about having our own businesses and growing our businesses and how to also make profit. So, of course, it will help us if I produce this and sell or almost sample it. It's something I just buy materials and produce and keep for people to buy anytime.
As trafficking in persons continues to threaten the safety and dignity of vulnerable individuals, this training isn't just about information. It's about equipping everyday people to become protectors, advocates, and allies in the fight against human trafficking. In Abuja, for News Central, Bettina Nwili.
Many thanks, Bettina. Let's go back to some politics. The Independent National Electoral Commission says more than 505,000 people have already pre-registered ahead of the continuous voter registration online process opened last week and has recorded what officials describe as an impressive turnout. Now, the exercise has entered a new phase as eligible Nigerians can take part in physical registration at designated centers nationwide. This stage will cater to those who could not pre-register online, as well as those completing their biometrics. News Center's Sarah Ayeku reports.
2027 general elections and subsequent off-season polls, the continuous voter registration is a critical pre-election activity. Nigeria is looking at capturing more people in its election data. Here in Lagos, INEC has designated 21 centers across the 20 local government areas for the first phase.
There were some initial delays which have been resolved, and the exercise has taken off successfully. For each local government area as at now, we have deployed at least minimum of 3 machines per local government. Where we have large population like Adimasho, we deploy at least 4. So we have adequate personnel and material and machines to cope with the exercise for this current phase.
Since this is the first nationwide CVR since the 2023 election, new voters like Dokai Chinedu now have the chance to register and participate in the electoral process.
My experience was expected. I will still give them 80 over 100. Basically, I can't be saying I want Nigeria to be great and I'm not ready to vote. It doesn't make sense. So right now I told myself, get the cards, support the change, believe in the hope that is coming. And if you've not registered for come, it's now easier, it's now smoother.
The phased CVR also allows registered voters to transfer their permanent voter cards and replace lost or damaged PVCs. The turnout in Marile Agege was much better than the head office in Yaba.
Mo jẹ́ ìkan nínú àwọn olùkọ́ni ní Lagos State tẹ́lẹ̀tẹ́lẹ̀ tí mo lò 33 years lẹ́nu iṣẹ́ kí n tó rìtáyà. Ṣùgbọ́n nígbà tí mo wà lẹ́nu iṣẹ́ yẹn, a kì í ráyè dìbò nítorí pé àwa la máa ń ṣiṣẹ́ ìdìbò lọ́jọ́ ìdìbò. Ṣùgbọ́n nígbà tí mo sì rìtáyà yìí, mo ní àǹfààní láti dìbò. Ọkàn mi sì wà níbẹ̀ láti dìbò.
But beyond new entries, the exercise is also expected to help clean up Nigeria's voter register.
For most of these electorates, there is a sense of determination going into the 2027 election. And this is what INEC wants to see: large turnout of voters at the registration centers across Nigeria. In Lagos, for News Central, Sarah Ayuku.
Thank you for staying with us. Away from Nigeria now, a Maryland man wrongfully deported earlier this year has been detained once again by U.S. immigration authorities in Baltimore, facing a possible deportation to Uganda. Kilma Abrego Garcia was initially and mistakenly deported to a notorious prison in El Salvador in March. He was later returned to the U.S. and charged with human smuggling. This time, officials intend to deport him to Uganda after he declined a plea deal that would have sent him to Costa Rica. His lawyers say the Trump administration is trying to coerce him into pleading guilty by threatening deportation halfway across the world. They filed a new federal lawsuit challenging his detention and potential deportation, and a court order currently pauses any immediate deportation efforts. And to one of our lead stories tonight, Hezbollah deputy leader Naim Qassem has firmly rejected the Lebanese government's plan to disarm the militant group ahead of critical talks between Lebanese officials and visiting U.S. envoys. In a televised statement, Qassem said that they will not give up the weapons that protect them from their enemy. This comes as Lebanon's government, under heavy U.S. pressure and fears of Israeli military escalation, has tasked the army with developing a plan to disarm Hezbollah by the end of this year. Despite the government's decision, Hezbollah insists it will not lay down its arms, viewing these weapons as essential to defending Lebanon against Israel. Cambodia's National Assembly has passed a controversial new law that empowers the government to strip citizenship from anyone convicted of treason or colluding with foreign countries. The law targets those accused of scheming against national interest or committing acts threatening Cambodia's sovereignty, territorial integrity, and security. It was approved by nearly all lawmakers in the 125-member assembly dominated by the ruling Cambodia's People's Party. A special committee established at the Interior Minister's request will decide on revoking citizenship. Although the law still requires approval from the upper house and the king, those steps are widely viewed as formalities. Business, sports and entertainment news come next after this short break. Join us.
In business, Nigeria's public debt surged to 52.25% of the GDP in 2024, surpassing the government's 40% threshold, according to the Debt Management Office's new medium-term debt strategy. The sharp rise from 40.57% in 2023 was driven by fresh borrowings, naira depreciation, and the inclusion of 30 trillion naira in ways and means advances from the central bank. While still below the IMF's 70% benchmark, the DMO warned debt could near 60% by 2027. The report also showed that external debt swelled due to currency devaluation. The maturity targets were met. Economic growth is projected to rebound, with inflation easing by 2027. Away from that, Zimbabwe has reinstated a ban on maize imports after a bumper harvest boosted supplies for local millers. The Agriculture Ministry on Monday said improved rainfall and support programs, including the Fumvudza, a smallholder scheme, lifted output after last year's El Nino-induced drought cut production to 800,000 metric tons, down from 2.3 million 2 years earlier. According to the ministry's permanent secretary, Obajiri, the Southern African nation, which consumes 1.8 million metric tons annually, now has enough stocks. Independent analysts, however, warn that agriculture, which employs 70% of Zimbabweans, remains vulnerable to climate change. The government is encouraging drought-tolerant crops like sorghum and millet to strengthen food security. And looking at the stock market, the Nigerian exchange closed positive as the All-Share Index advanced by 0.31% to settle at 141,439.77 points, while market capitalization rose to 89.49 trillion naira. The uptrend was supported by buying interest in financials and select consumer goods stocks, sustaining the market's bullish momentum. Now, talking about sectoral performance across these sectors, the banking index gained 1.12% on the back of sustained demand in Tier 1 lenders. Insurance followed with a stronger 3.81% advance, reflecting continued investor appetite for stocks in that space. Well, looking at oil and gas, it actually dipped 0.31% as profit-taking weighed on the sector. Meanwhile, consumer goods saw a modest rise of about 0.29%, supported by gains in breweries and food producers. Industrial goods, lastly, closed almost flat with a marginal 0.02%. That's it on business. I am Lekon Onobanjo. Do stay tuned for sport news.
In sports, Nigeria will be hoping for a successful campaign at the 2025 Commonwealth Weightlifting Championships in Abuja, India, which began today. The tournament is a key qualifier for the 2026 Commonwealth Games in Glasgow. Team Nigeria will field a mix of debutants and experienced lifters. Among them are Ruth Asukwo in the women's 48 kg category, making her debut, and Eddie Dangumofia competing in the men's 71 kg after winning bronze at the Birmingham 2022 competition. Other lifters include Rafiatou Lawal, Islamiyat Yusuf, and Mario Sijo. The championship, which runs from the 25th to the 30th of August, will determine qualification spots for next year's Commonwealth Games scheduled for July 23rd to August 2, 2026. To cricket, where head coach Leke Oyede has unveiled Nigeria's final 14-player squad for the 2025 ICC Women's T20 World Cup African qualifiers, scheduled for August 28 to September 7 in Namibia. Captain Peculiar Boyer, she will lead the female Yellow Greens alongside standout names like Lucky Paiti, who is Nigeria's only women's cricket centurion, and wicket-keeper Sarah Etim. The squad, trimmed from 22 players after training camps in Benin City and Lagos, blends experience with youthful talent. Nigeria will face Zimbabwe, Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, Namibia, Rwanda and Sierra Leone. The top two sides progress to the global qualifiers later this year. The 2026 Women's T20 World Cup will be staged in England. The semi-finals of the African Nations Championship are set for Tuesday in two of East Africa's biggest cities. Madagascar will take on Sudan at the Benjamin Mkapa Stadium at Dar es Salaam, while the other semi-final will see a battle of the Lions, where Morocco's Atlas Lions will take on defending champions, the Teranga Lions of Senegal, at the Mandela National Stadium in Kampala. Madagascar stunned co-host Kenya 4-3 on penalties, while Morocco and Senegal aired Tanzania and Uganda 1-0 respectively in other encounters. On their path, Sudan booked their place in the semi-final with a 4-2 penalty shootout, a win over Algeria after regulation time ended 1-1. To the Premier League, where Newcastle United have had a £50 million bid for striker Jurgen Strand-Larsen rejected by Wolverhampton Wanderers. The Magpies are expected to return with an improved offer, but Wolverhampton Wanderers have previously stated that they do not want to sell the Norway international. Newcastle are in the market for a centre-forward after Callum Wilson left last month with his contract expired. The future of the Swedish international striker Alexander Isak at the St. James Park is very much in doubt after the player made it clear he does not want to play for the club again. Newcastle have also had two bids rejected by Brentford for Yohan Wissa, with the Bees now expecting the DR Congo forward to stay at the club. The club facing a race against time to recruit one striker, let alone two, and that is before the prospect of Liverpool making another bid for Isak, having had the previous one turned down. Newcastle have attempted to sign a number of strikers this summer without success. And that's it in the world of sport. I am Onyinyechi Obaro. Entertainment news is up next.
Sam Dandy's here with the latest in entertainment. Hi, Sam Dandy.
How you doing, Felicity?
I'm good.
Well, we got Burna in the news. Now, Burna Boy has added another accolade to his career as his 2020 collaboration with Sam Smith, My Oasis, has been certified silver by the British phonographic industry. Now, the certification announced on Monday, August the 25th, recognizes over 200,000 units in sales and streams in the UK, making it Burna Boy's 23rd certified song in the region. Now, this milestone highlights his continued dominance in the UK market and the global impact of his cross-border collaborations. Now, this further cements Burna Boy's status as one of Africa's most successful international artists. Burna Boy also holds a record, along with Thames, as the first African artist to notch 7 entries on the US Billboard Hot 100, marking entries for 5 consecutive years. I'm just super happy we get to celebrate these things for Afrobeat stars. And honestly, once you blow in Nigeria, the next place to go to perform is the UK.
It's global.
It's
global. Not just once you are able to make it here in Nigeria, it's a done deal, unless you don't have people that will help you leverage that, exposure. I'm happy for him. Congratulations to him. He's also bringing,
all the attention here
to us. Yeah.
Let's move from this one out to the African continent. Warner Bros. Has confirmed plans to bring the life of late NBA legend Kobe Bryant to the big screen. The studio announced that development is already underway for a biopic chronicling his basketball legacy, global impact, and personal journey. Now, the project is expected to highlight Bryant's influence beyond the court, including his venture into storytelling and his inspirational Mamba mentality. Now, fans worldwide have welcomed the news, anticipating an emotional but yet powerful tribute to the basketball icon. Now, Kobe Bryant died on January the 26th in 2020 in a helicopter crash in Calabasas, California. Now, he led the Los Angeles Lakers to 5 NBA championships and cemented his legacy as one of the greatest basketball players of all time. I like that we get to merge entertainment and, sports, because to be honest, whether you didn't see him on the court, you must have known his impact.
Well, he's way beyond the sports legend. Right. His legacy is felt across the board. So this is one that I'm sure a lot of persons will look forward to. And I just hope that they depict him well.
I do hope. I know I'm going to shed a few tears when it comes to when I see it. But those are the biggest stories in entertainment. I am Sam Dandy.
And that's our offering tonight. But before we go, here's a quick reminder of our top stories. The People's Democratic Party zones 2027 presidency to the south, confirms Umar Damagum as its substantive national chairman. Africa Chiefs of Defense Staff Summit opens in Abuja as Nigeria's Defense Minister Matawalle urges deeper collaboration to combat insecurity. We also brought you news that Hezbollah has rejected disarmament, says Israel must comply with ceasefire ahead of talks between Lebanese officials and U.S. envoys. Do send us your eyewitness reports. You can do that by using the number on your screen. You can also follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch us live on DSTV channel 422, GoTV channel 23, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and on YouTube. As always, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you tomorrow. Good night.